Feeling so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would feel without using our sense of the world to make sense of the world. And world peace, inner and outer world peace, through individual strength. Welcome back to the Best Feeling Podcast, the Best Feeling Network, your only no-nonsense podcast with your host, Herbie. This is absolutely how go on. What day is it? What day is it? What day is it? Someone tell me what day it is. It is November 11th, 2022, a Freedom Friday. Here on Padawan, where we are always discussing the relationship between ourselves and other things and other concepts. For every Friday in Padawan is a Freedom Friday. In which we will be discussing our relationship with ourselves and freedom. What is freedom, if not authenticity, if not love itself? Today we will be talking about overcoming anger. Overcome anger. You should overcome anger. Why? Because anger restricts new patterns of behavior. Anger clouds the vision. Anger has a mental component. Anger has a physical component. And are we just gonna leave you hanging high and dry as we just grab your morning by the arms and talk about some crazy topics indeed? Or no, we shall be using some good old body magic tricks to feel so good from the inside out as we listen to Pal go on and all throughout in this simulation of ours that we find ourselves living in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with every breath that you take. I hope you're doing well out there. I hope you will join us as we invite you to pretend that there is a candle in front of your lips. Why, Herbie? Why should we pretend that there's a candle in front of our lips? Well, as we are living in this simulation in which you die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with every breath that you take. We want to hold our controller properly so that every breath that we take as we are living from breath to breath is properly aligned and peaceful, stress-free, as we know we are doing what we are supposed to be doing. If we are allowing our words to go in one ear and out the other this morning or afternoon, evening, wherever you are, whenever thou art, we invite you to hold this controller of ours properly in this simulation we live in. We invite you to hold this controller properly with us today. How do we hold this controller properly today? We pretend that there's a candle, a lit candle just flickering in front of your lips that you are trying to not put out. And you're not thinking about inhaling or exhaling necessarily, but simply that there is a lit candle just flickering in front of your lips. And that's just having the intention of trying to not put it out and allowing the body to go where it wants to go as we move in the way in which we think we are constructed. Use some body magic tricks like pretending there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out in order to get ourselves closer to aligning to the truth as we feel how far forward of the body this candle feels, which aligns with our body wanting to place its weight onto the forward part of the spine, the weight-bearing portion of the spine, which is closer to the front It is the front portion of the spine which is meant to bear the weight of the body, while the back spiny portion of the spine is meant to house the nerves and allow flexibility of complex movements which we find ourselves doing in life. How are you doing today? And how does that feel for you? How does that feel for you? To pretend that there's a candle just flickering in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. You just have the intention of not putting it out. And allowing all the muscles that wish to move into their proper alignment move, or perhaps just simply observe, as we are just observers, of course. Simply observe how the body reacts to placing the candle into your awareness. Not just you, but every human around you. Part of their design is to activate the muscles which activate when feeling a sensation similar to a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. Every human being, whether they are behind you in your imagination, in front of you, to your left, to your right, miles away, but they're in your thoughts, there's a candle in front of their lips in their awareness that they're trying to not put out. As all of the muscles associated with that sensation activate, which allow a better holding of our controller today. How the heck are you? As we feel these candles, we us candle kissers. How are you? How are you feeling? How is your body feeling? How has your sense of self been? You know, your sense of self, you know. What the heck's a sense of self? You know, your sense of self. How your left arm kind of feels a little bit different than your right arm, you know what I'm saying? From the inside out, your inside world. We're not just gonna leave you hanging after we ask why we should overcome anger. We're gonna be using some great body magic tricks today to feel so good from the inside out, better than your morning would feel without. Wherever you are, whenever thou art, whether you are in a car, or whether you're at a desk, or whether you are about to order food at McDonald's. How are you? You ready to dive into some great feeling conversation? We'll be right back after this short break to talk about, hey, overcome anger. We'll talk about what anger is, what it looks like. We'll talk about why to overcome it. We'll talk about how to overcome it. Yes, indeed. Some actionable, specific advice. We'll be right back after this short break. If you're feeling the front of your shins, if you're listening to the front of the shins for this week, my name is Herbie. This is Padawan. We'll be right back. Drained? Depressed? Has the chaos of the world got you feeling confused and apathetic? Even gassy? Feeling like nothing gets you out of this funk? When you're feeling lost in the daily grind, left feeling meaningless, don't touch grass, touch the front of your shins. Feel less tired and more inspired with us on the Best Feeling Podcast. Padawan. Feeling so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would feel without. Using our sense of the world to make sense of the world. Why? To achieve inner and outer world peace through individual strength. I hope you're allowing all these words to go in one ear and out the other during this segment. Welcome back from the break. I hope you've been well. I hope you've been listening to the front of your shins as if they're the tuning forks, the sounds of the world around you that you hear. Spread some of that sweet, sweet, oh, sweet, sweet. Spread some of that, oh, sweet, sweet hearing awareness towards the front of your shins. How does that feel for you? Ooh, look. The front of your shins are gonna hit that kick, snare. Be like, kick, snare. Yeah, coming from the front of your shins. Shins there. Yeah. How does that feel? Right there. Yeah. How are you? In a long time. Are you in a coffee shop right now, kicking your feet? Or are you in a theater right now? With some popcorn to eat? Waiting for the show to begin. Where are you? How are you? Are you in a car right now, driving for a long road trip? We here at Pal Go On do enjoy and appreciate being part of any part of your experience here on this earth. Time is of the essence. And so, I appreciate you being here. Allow us to just blend into the background of your life. Be one of the sounds in that symphony of yours as we are allowing ourselves to shift to our ears for a little bit. By listening for 7 different things in the room. Can't your awareness pick apart that symphony of sounds around you and choose to become aware of certain things in specifics? Are we able to pluck out parts of our awareness and pay special attention? And then aren't we allowed to move our awareness back into the greater mold again? Can't we change and shift our shape of our awareness like that? Same way that we can separate our left ear in awareness if it's throbbing or if it's warm from the rest of our body. And then we can begin to feel the rest of our body again when we come to relax by allowing the weight of our body to be delivered down the front of the spine, always at all times. The weight of the body at the front of the spine at all times. As we notice here in this diagram behind me, that there is the weight-bearing portion of the spine, which is the front. When it gets to the pelvis bone, boom! Gotta tell you the truth. The weight of the body then splits into the sit bones. You do not sit on your tailbone. Heck no. Instead, we are allowing the weight to go down the front of the spine at all times. And then divide into the 2 sitting bones. And remember that we absolutely do not sit on our legs. We do not sit on our legs. We all float down here. Always feeling so good to wash out any kind of inside struggles we might be having. Most of which come from balance, believe it or not. As once the weight-bearing portions of your body are allowed or given permission to do their job, the rest of the body can feel weightless. So weightless. Weightless. Today we will be talking about overcoming anger. Overcome anger. What exactly is this anger stuff? How do we define anger? What is anger? What is anger if not playing God? What do we mean by playing God? As in believing that there is any other time than now. As in judging. When you judge, you are playing God, as you are assuming too much control and responsibility. And when we say too much, as in it doesn't align with the truth. And so we resent, judge. We consider ourselves others. We are different. We are a god. we are different is what we do that creates anger. Is when we have an othering spirit. Other things are other than me. I could not possibly understand that scenario, that person. I don't understand them. Or they're just not smart like I am. Or this moment should be different because I say so, because it affects me or what I agree with or don't disagree or what I disagree with. But what do we know? Us in our very finite human experiences can see very little. Yes, indeed, it is very difficult to see the world as not only is the world itself and the outside world already difficult to understand if we are listening to the front of our shins at all times. Then you begin to account for all of the different consciousnesses and what they're doing and what they believe, what motivations they're running on, the choices that they make, us trying to assume that we know everything that is going on, and then that conflicting with the reality that we painted in our head is what creates this anger. Us deciding that any moment has any right or any reason to be anything than it is by believing that we and our experience is unique. Now, is it kind of scary to say that we're not unique? Maybe. There might be some negative feelings involved with feeling as though we are not special. But on the contrary, isn't there something so uplifting about everybody being the same? As in, we can begin to search for meaningful solutions and share them. As the human experience itself is so muddled with confusion and questions and fear, that us as a human race have been holding hands for thousands of years, working on transferring wisdom, so that we can begin to see any semblance of solutions. It takes lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes of passed on wisdom to find real solutions to this human condition. We're put on this earth. We did not choose the body that we inhabit. We did not choose the family in which we were born into. We did not choose our genes. And yet here we are, destined to, if there's anything that is guaranteed in anybody's life, it's that you will one day pass. But life can either be a tragedy or a comedy. And we choose comedy. Not because we laugh in an anger sort of way, in which we believe that we are different than others. We have an othering spirit in which we choose that we cannot understand another person's actions or another person's beliefs. But can't we always? If no conflict in the body existed of trying to be in a different place than we are here, by judging the situation and believing that we had any control in the way that we think we do over it, doesn't our body itself become overwhelmed with conflict in trying to solve an unsolvable problem? Which is to believe that we ourselves are God, something that is different than every other human experience out here. But there's a huge benefit in believing rules about the world, if we'll refer to yesterday, Truth Hurts Day. When we believe rules that are more closer to the truth, and that our human experiences are similar to one another, when you just look at the basic factors of how we did not choose to be here, but yet here we are, everyone in the same situation, same scenarios, in that we're getting older and we will pass. There are two sexes. Gravity exists at all times. Time moves one way. similarly, in a similar spirit, in recognizing truths and learning to work with them, didn't we all share the same experience human-wise when it comes to being born and all that kind of stuff? Maybe not the specifics, but rather the spirit, or rather the challenges that our spirit must overcome. And as these vessels that we are, as we float through the galaxy, each of us, our own vessel, isn't it correct to believe more truth about it? We're going to talk about overcoming anger today. What is this anger? Judging the moment and playing God and having an emotional commitment to believing that you should be right when we should just be observers. And there's a physical component as well as a mental component to anger, right? There's a mental component that is judging, saying that this time, this scenario should not be, and taking an overwhelming overconfidence and just an unordered view of our own ability to see the world. We assume that what we are, when we get angry, we assume that how we feel about something is the way that it should be, instead of recognizing and integrating with the truth that things just are. It is because it is, and then seeking to understand why. There's a hugely different spirit. The spirit of anger is one that says there is nothing to explore. I'm already correct. I'm already correct that this moment should not be this way, and therefore I have the right to indulge and feel the pleasures of indulging into my anger. Versus the acceptance spirit, which doesn't say I know better than this moment and this moment should exist, but rather this moment did exist, and seeks to simply understand why. So that if you want to change the scenario, you can change future scenarios by changing the worldview on it. Why should we overcome this anger? Well, by pretending that there could be any other moment than now, which is what would create this anger. Anger restricts new patterns of behaviors again. You know, it clouds the vision. In that, to be observers of the truth as we are in this world, to be angry is to mar our ability to observe truth and to react to truth and to work with the truth in the same way we work with gravity to move our bodies. We want as clear vision of the truth as possible so we can gain as much freedom and authenticity in our movement, not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally as well. We look to align closer to the truth, and what aligns you further from the truth? Anger. Anger locks you into patterns of behaviors because you assume you are correct. You have judged. What have you judged? You have judged yourself to be correct about a moment when you are just a peon and can barely see what is going on all around you. Not just the outside world that is not just literally in your clear vision. You might say, well, I can hear all the world around me in 3D space. Yes, but you cannot hear nor begin to fully understand in the moment of what each person is going through at a time. And as each person has every person has such a huge effect on life and society. As we know, you leave a hole the shape and size of your soul in society when we are not performing to our peak performance. When we are numbing ourselves, there is a hole in the shape and size of your soul in society that we leave. So allowing us to move more authentically, if we remove ourselves from anger, if we remove anger from our body, there's a lot for you to do. There's a lot for you to do. And we know you can do it. I know you can do it. But how. We first must overcome anger to become better observers of the world, of the truth, and to not resent moments, as those will lock us into patterns of behavior which prevent us from exploring the full potential of our souls onto the world. This anger thing has us holding on to moments and judgments. As we take moments and judgments personally, we begin to get angry as we assume that because our experience requires ourselves to feel pleasurable, at least in our opinion, anything that changes that experience from pleasure to pain, our first reaction when first going through life is to hold anger against this event or person or thing or place, as it creates within you a feeling that is crippling and difficult and almost impossible to remove from your body when influenced by this outside source. And that pain causes us to focus on it, disallowing us from being free and authentic instead. So we end up repeating behavior patterns. And doesn't our lack of confidence in ourselves to change our patterns of behavior create a feeling of unempowerment? Here on Freedom Friday, we're not about unempowerment. Guess what we're about instead? Say it again in your head. We're about empowerment. I'm here, Freedom Friday, as we are achieving more freedom, which has a mental and physical component, as we know. We'll talk a little bit more about what this mental and physical component We'll talk more a little bit about what the mental and physical components are of anger, and then we'll talk about how to overcome this anger, which I think you already know what is coming up, as we pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips and in front of just a flickering candle in front of their lips that they're trying to not put out, and allowing all of the body that wants to move, giving it permission to move as we place our weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the sit bones at all times. Remember, you do not sit on your legs as we listen to the fronts of your shins like speakers of the world as they vibrate to the kicks and the snares in this song. We'll be right back to talk about the mental and physical components of anger so we can get a clear picture of what we're doing, what we're dealing with, and then how to overcome this anger. We'll be right back after this short break. My name is Herbie. This is Go On, your best feeling podcast. Be right back. Tried all the vitamins and gummies that claim they're going to be boosting your mental capabilities, your physical performance, your behaviors in life? Tried them and then felt motivated yet slightly confused and cautious? I mean, are the effects even real or are they placebo? Are you achieving what you think you are achieving or is it imagination? Do you have all this energy now or is that imagination too? Be done with placebos. Be done with uncertainty. Isn't it so draining to be uncertain? You can't even begin to gain confidence in what you're doing. How about some actionable, specific advice instead? Take this gummy, feel the front of your shins. Bam! That one's free. Take Palgoan with you wherever you go, whenever you go, and feel so good from the inside out. Feeling so good from the inside out, better than your morning would feel without. Using our sense of the world to make sense of the world. Why? To achieve inner, then outer world peace. How? Through individual strength, of course. Get out of here and then come back. I hope you had a great break. Welcome back to the Best Feeling Podcast, the Best Feeling Network, your only no-nonsense podcast with your host, Herbie. This is Palgoan. It is Freedom Friday. Welcome back. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whenever thou art, whether you are watching it here live at the premiere on Friday, or you are out there in the future somewhere, you crazy, beautiful time traveler, you welcome back to Palgoan. Today we're talking about overcoming anger on Freedom Fridays. We're discussing the relationship between ourselves and freedom itself. Becoming authentic, effortlessly, with a presence of grace. Overcoming anger. First, what is anger? There's a mental aspect. There's a physical aspect. What do you mean there's a physical aspect of anger? We just get angry, son. We just get angry, son. But how do you know you're angry? Yes, you put two and two together. You begin to piece in your head mentally what you consider to be injustices. But what is anger if not a physical component? How do you know you're angry? Well, you feel angry. Isn't that true? Isn't there an imbalance in the body when you are angry? An uncomfortability deep within you. Sometimes on the surface, bubbling like you're just gonna punch somebody. Or sometimes very deep on the inside that can feel like sadness or an emptiness or a resentment. And doesn't that often feel like an uncomfortability in the body, possibly a subluxation in your spine, the uncomfortability that brings, that dull but ever-present feeling? Can't that be what anger is from the inside sometimes? As we are allowing our weight to be delivered down the front of our spine at all times. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. And then divided, boom, our weight is divided, bam, into these sit bones as we do not sit on our legs, whether you are walking around or standing up or jumping in the air or flying or falling or sitting down or lying down or in fetal position. This is the case. The weight of the body is delivered down the front, the spine, not the back. The weight-bearing portion of the spine, and we do not sit on our tailbones. You sit on your sit bones, which are divided from those weight-bearing portion of the spine, whoop, into the chair that you sit in. Your hip joints are anatomical middle, baby. There's a physical component to anger, right? If you could wash away or simply let the feelings of anger wash over you and then pass through you and then out of you, and is gone, would you still be angry? Or is anger not that feeling that sticks with inside of you? If we were able to wash out any negative feelings that we have from the inside in the same way that we could feel better in the body by adjusting our posture to sit better onto our weight-bearing portions of our body, if we could not, or rather, if we were able to wash away any negative inside feelings as easy as we could lifting our right arm up, would we still be angry? Would we have anger at all if we were able to wash away that feeling? Would we have anger or simply discernment of the world? Would we have anger or simply a perspective on the world that we believe makes the world good according to our philosophy? Whatever that might be, as you will see, here it is, feeling so good from the inside out, so we could help ourselves and help the world at the same time. How is that possible? Well, we have to overcome this anger thing, which has a physical component, thankfully. Thankfully. Because everyone's lives are so different that if it wasn't a physical component, if it was like a... Well, the mental component is very similar in that it's shared amongst all human beings, thank God. The ability to get rid of this anger thing comes naturally stuck with your body, your mind, your mentality. So what's the mental component of anger? Well, as we discussed, playing God. As in, you think you are this flying giant in the sky wearing a toga? That kind of God? A physical representation of this God, or perhaps playing the spirit of God, which operates or believes in itself as in control of the world. But when you really look at it, we are in control of very little in the world, especially from our tiny vantage point of being this one individual fleshy body in this gigantic world with billions of people in it. I don't think society quite appreciates all the time how large the world is, how vast the world is. And so this mental aspect of anger comes from this resentment of feeling unfree, right? As pain makes you feel unfree, we develop anger for things that cause us to be unfree. We develop resentment towards things that make us feel as though we are unfree. As freedom is, as we know, freedom is happiness for a human being. Now, freedom to what? To do all things at all times? No, there's such things as, there are rules in life, such things as gravity, or time goes one way. There are certain rules that we abide by in the simulation of ours in which we die every 5 minutes, but that time is reset with the breath that you take. There are rules that we acknowledge that we did not create, but rather are part of the setting that our lives take place in. And the better and more detailed our relationship becomes with the truth of these rules that govern our existence, like the fact that time moves one way and that gravity is always pulling down on you, the better you adjust to these truths and more familiar you become with these truths, the more freedom you actually create for yourself as you learn to move because of gravity, or use gravity to your advantage. Use time running one way as your advantage to simply stay in the moment, understanding that you cannot be in multiple places at once, but rather you can only be in one place at once. And what do all these incorrect beliefs create? Anger. Why? Because there is a mismatched worldview of the rules that govern your life. And so of course you feel trapped as you try to swim when you're not in water, or you try to walk when you're underwater, completely disregarding the rules of the setting that you live in. And so we live in a setting, we live in a context, a simulation of ours. One of the contexts is that you die every 5 minutes, that timer is reset with a breath, or that you need food to survive, you need water to survive. Time runs one way. The universe is this binary, inside and outside world, male, female. And we exist in this context, and the better that we acknowledge and have a clear relationship with this context, the more freedom we actually do create for ourselves to perform meaningfully in life. Freedom is a word that gets tossed around all the time, but is often associated to a similar kind of freedom of swimming in air. It's a freedom that is absent of the reality that it lives in, so is unuseful. As we know that humans themselves have a design. What is that design? To confront and resolve pain, right? To return to balance. Why? Because when we're at balance, we're most free to move in any direction we want to, which is closer to our authentic selves, versus our ego selves, which is not free to move infinitely from this position it's at, but is rather trapped to repeating the same old behaviors due to trying to be in violation of these rules, trying to be in multiple places at once, trying to believe that it has more power than it does, trying to believe that it has more control over circumstances in life that it does, thus creating an alternate version of you that is repeating the same patterns as it is locked in this web of multiple conflicting theories that conflict with the truth of life. Kind of like trying to swim in air, which conflicts with the rules that we know to be in affecting us as we are above water, or trying to walk underwater. I mean, say in this, in the scenarios in which you're not heavy enough, you know what I mean? It's like trying to swim in concrete. The way you behave in one set of rules or one context is not going to gain you the same amount of freedom to behave authentically and freely in another context. So what do we do to reduce this pain that we feel of conflicting contexts, this simulation we live in? It's like we were confused about the rules. Doesn't that create anger as you try to believe you are correct for not getting the result that you wanted or whatever, by assuming that the context should be the context that you wanted it to be, or the rules should be the rules you think it should be, as opposed to simply observing the rules that are here for us and learning to use and play within them. Instead of seeing the negative situations in our lives or the pain that we feel in the body or in our lives, instead of seeing those scenarios as situations in which the world did not go the way that we assumed it should have been, the mental aspect of this anger thing also includes thinking about every moment happens and you must just find how it makes sense, or how you must adjust your worldview so that it begins to bring peace again, begins to return you to balance, begins to be closer to the truth, and that you do not have responsibility over other people's emotions. You only have responsibility for your own emotions. So anger has this mental component of judging the scenario that you're in, judging all these different scenarios that you seem concerned with a spirit of believing that it should not be that way, instead of looking to seek why it is that way. Again, anger comes from us judging scenarios and saying they should not be that way, instead of seeking to mold a more sophisticated version of our worldview by looking to ask why this happened, as opposed to believing already and convincing ourselves that it should not have happened, which is not empowering. It's a less useful worldview, as it creates stasis, not freedom. It creates similar undesired behavior patterns. Whereas the opposite creates more freedom by simply accepting, not judging, naming, not blaming, naming the situation to find a solution or to find a reason, as opposed to simply deciding that it should not exist. Because what do we know, if not just what we are observing in the world? How do we overcome this anger? Forgive your parents. It's the first mental component. The first mental fix is to forgive your parents. And then you shall be forgiven through yourself, through the relationship with this God thing, this design from within you, right? This God thing, which is simply, seems closer to just our relationship with aligning closer to the truth and the goodness that comes from that. We'll talk about that that's a whole nother topic, but the first mental hurdle of overcoming anger is recognizing that we are not in control of as much as we think we are, which is where forgiving our parents comes into play. Forgiving our mothers, especially. Anyone who passes through the womb has resentment towards their mother. And so forgiving our parents, especially to their face if you can, is so important to acknowledge the reality of the existence itself. It's to acknowledge that you do know nothing. It's to acknowledge that they too, as the humans that they are in the similar human experience, also know very little. We cannot see very much. We are all blind. We are blind so long as we use emotion and judgment. Emotion and believing we are to judge moments like they should not happen causes us to be blind. Believing ourselves from our vantage point to be correct and that we could not be incorrect is what this whole idea of playing God is. Instead of just observing truths with the intention of solving problems, with the intention of creating order, as opposed to the intention of defending ourselves, believing we are too weak if something else exists, believing that we cannot overcome any struggle, which comes from forgiveness, which comes from recognizing the truth of the universe, which is that we are just here, we did not choose. And we're all blinded by emotion so we can overcome it. Forgive your parents, for we were all born into messed up families, including them. And that's the first fix, mental fix, is letting go and accepting how little control we actually have. We're for sure not responsible for other people's emotions. We'll talk about the physical component right after we get back from this short break. Talk more about how to overcome this anger. I hope you're remembering to listen to the front of your shins like they're the speakers of the world that you listen to wherever you are, whenever thou art. We'll be back right here on the Best Feeling Podcast. My name is Herbie, and this is Paguan. We have a recommended book reading list. If you feel like you have a hard time understanding yourself at this stage in your life, check out No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert A. Glover. It's an aggressive title, but a very meaningful book when it comes to understanding the self, both men and women, masculinity and femininity. So you'll see it first in yourself, then throughout the world, so it brings peace through understanding. Do you suffer from a mental illness that you want to actually do something about? Or do you just want to be able to change your patterns and behaviors in life? Check out that book with the girl with holding her hand up. It's an amazing book. The Body's Map of Consciousness, Volume 1, Movement, by Lansing, Barrett, Gresham, and Julie J. Nichols. Do you have body or neck aches throughout the day or throughout the night? and gone to chiropractors and just been frustrated with not being able to get a permanent fix, check out the purple book, The Structures and Movement of Breathing by Conable, and Anatomy of the Voice by Theodore Dimon for a more detailed look. There, that book on the left, and take charge in getting your relief back. All these books are highly recommended and pretty short and just freaking phenomenal books. Beyond impressive, incredible, ridiculous, awesome, stupendous, prodigious. Feeling so good from the inside out, better than your morning would feel without using our sense of the world to make sense of the world. Why? To achieve inner, then outer world peace through individual strength. Something like that. Welcome back to the Best Feeling Podcast and the Best Feeling Network and your only no-nonsense podcast. I'm your host, Herbie, and this is absolutely Pagawan. It is a Friday, which means on Pagawan, it is a Freedom Friday as we achieve more freedom! Freedom! In life, by establishing a stronger relationship between ourselves and this freedom. How do we achieve freedom today? Well, we overcome anger, which causes us to repeat behaviors, usually undesired behaviors. Why? Because we are identifying this moment and projecting other moments onto it, like moments in the past that we're trying to avoid or trying to get more of, moments in the future that we believe might happen in our imagination. Looking forward and looking back are both in the imagination, which creates conflict in the mind, which creates conflict in the body, which creates a physical component of this anger, as well as we feel trapped, unable to move freely and authentically, but rather are slaves to the way we feel about the past, the way we feel about the future. Both of which are in the imagination and not godly, which is in the present moment here, as we are feeling our body with more truth. Because where is your body if not here and now? And so isn't your body the most truthful, the most loving thing you can pay attention to? It'd be nice if you could feel the integration of other people's bodies as well, but it is impossible. You are locked to this vessel, but that's a good thing. You are able to see the problems within you as we are projecting other moments and deciding and judging that those other moments should be coming again in this moment or something like that. As we look into the past, look into the future and try to bring them here. Don't we create anger within ourselves as those past and future moments inevitably end up conflicting with the present moment, which will never be those other things. The present moment is spontaneous and full of life and love. Full of life and love we can experience and integrate with most clearly when we are free of anger. Isn't there a mental component of anger as we are projecting our desires, our previous fears, and our own egos, our ideas of how the world should be, onto the present moment instead of simply observing what the moment is and being free to react and move to that moment? Wouldn't that create the most authenticity and freedom? Doesn't that create the most happiness within you, the most peace, as we're able to react and respond to every moment with confidence and authenticity? React to every moment with confidence and authenticity. React to every moment with confidence and authenticity. Why? Because we should not ask for an easy life, but rather the strength to deal with a difficult one. And strength here is the strength to overcome anger, which there is a mental aspect of it. You got to forgive your parents so that not just for the emotional aspect of forgiveness, but as it is a manifestation of a realization of the truth of the order of the universe, the order of the human race, the nature of us, our human condition. It is an acknowledgement that we are all the same in this messed up pattern that we must deal with, this human condition. Being born into bodies that we did not choose, into families we did not choose, situations that we did not choose, and then receiving judgment for all of those scenarios in which we could not choose, not just from the outside world, but the inside world ourselves, as we judge ourselves, create anger within ourselves, trying to create futures in our imagination or trying to recreate past in our imagination, as both of them inevitably conflict with the present. We create conflict in our body and anger as we wish for something that is not. So let's stay in the moment by forgiving our parents. Go to them and see what happens. And then if they get upset, well, that's what you have to forgive them for. Because as a child, you were helpless to defend yourself from this. Also, you were helpless from even understanding that they weren't trying to be whatever parents, but everyone's always just doing their best to seek peace in their life. And whatever peace that they deem, or whatever it is that they deem will cause them peace. How do we create peace though, as we know? Well, in this simulation of ours, in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath, we hold our controller properly in order to wash away any inside negativity, which, as we know, also has a physical component to it. It's not just emotional. What is emotional if not body kinesthetically, our sixth sense? How do we hold this controller properly? How do we overcome this anger? Well, lucky for you, they're pretty much the same answer. I hope you're ready to hold your controller properly with us today as we say goodbye. But one last time, I want to remind you to hold this controller properly. How do we hold this controller properly? Well, we pretend that there is a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. It's just a flickering candle. It's just flickering in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. It's like a birthday candle. You're just observing your sense of self. Kind of like how your head feels different than your shoulders and how your right arm feels a little bit different than your left arm. And those positionings compared to each other, related to each other. Observe your sense of self as we pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. It's just flickering. You're not thinking about inhaling or exhaling. Just that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. Wherever you are, whenever thou art. Whether you are chilling in the park, whether you are chilling in the dark. Whether you are playing pool, whether you are throwing darts. Whether you are bowling or going back to being a pool shark. I want to leave you with one last message that you can do it. I know the world is crazy, family is crazy, work is crazy, hell, you're kind of crazy, truth be told. We all need to hear that sometimes. But it's just emotionalism, this anger stuff that manifests physically, and we can backdoor, we can hack the system. As we know, anger can be a mental thing. It manifests in the body, and maybe we can fix it from the back of the machine, turn it around and overcome this anger, not just by forgiving your parents from the outside, but also through the back door by aligning our body closer to the truth, by returning to balance so that we can wash away any of these negative inside feelings and move more authentically. Because don't we get angry as we predict that we won't be able to move freely as we use the past to judge the present instead of being confident to react to the president. A little Freudian slip. But as we want to feel free to react to the present moment. Excuse me. With confidence and authenticity. I'm really enjoying this new pop filter I have on the microphone. I don't know, like, it seems like it's helping a lot. I've been really enjoying this. Please, guys, I will see you next week. Thank you for joining us. Please give a like, share, and subscribe. Tell all your friends it's the best feeling podcast come through. Leave some comments. We'll probably read them on the show. I hope you're feeling so well. You're feeling so good from the inside out. You can do it today. Go be productive. Go kick butt. Go wash anger away from you by returning to balance. Go forgive your parents. Go listen to the front of your shins, like they are the speakers of the world around you, along with this can in front of the lips. And we'll see you next week on Mover Monday. This has been the Best Feeling Podcast, the Best Feeling Network, your only no-nonsense podcast. Go in peace. My name is Herbie. This is Padawan. Padawan. Big love.